Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. My first season. My name is Greg, and we have a very, very special guest today. He has a career spanning 25 years as a professional skydiver, base jumper, and wingsuit pilot. He is one of the most experienced extreme sports athletes on the planet, with over 13,000 jumps combined. His adventures have taken him around the globe with success in all areas, including becoming a world champion, a world record holder, and representing his native country of Australia, best country in the world, by the way, in both skydiving and base jumping in several disciplines. Through his extreme sports background and expertise in risk management, he founded the world's leading base jump school, which is called Learn to Base Jump, training hundreds of students from beginners to experts. His life has been a series of mind-blowing ups and harrowing downs, life experiences that he brings to his courses. He is also the author of the book, Confessions of an Idiot, The Colorful Tale of a Life in Freefall, out on paperback, Amazon.com, anywhere you buy books. Don't worry, I will be putting the link in his bio. He lives by the words dream, challenge, and inspire. Dare to dream, challenge yourself to live out those dreams, and then inspire others to do so themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, originally from Melbourne, Australia, now living in Switzerland, big ups for Mr. Chris Dukes McDougall. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm good, thank you.
Hopefully I pronounced your nickname right. It's Dukes, right?
You're one of the only people that did.
Okay, good. All right. I am so stoked to talk to you. Like I said, I first came aware of you. I can pinpoint the date, in August 2016, when a friend of mine posted one of your wingsuit videos onto his Facebook page. And then, of course, I've always been fascinated with wingsuit flyers. I mean, ever since I saw Lara Croft, the Cradle of Life, the 2003 movie, where I think this was the first movie we even saw wingsuits in actions in a movie anyway. So you must be people must be coming up to you all the time, like so envious of you. Am I right?
Yeah, to a certain extent. It's funny you mentioned Lara Croft, because my friend did that, and that was his real hair.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And he had to give the boobs back.
Oh, no. Okay.
So
you're saying he doubled for Angelina Jolie, right?
Yeah, he did. Per Flair from Sweden, a living legend.
Oh, okay. Wow. Small world. Because what you do, I mean, everyone dreams of doing, even myself, like when you see that, because be honest, so that is the closest you'll come to flying, right?
For sure. In this lifetime, it's unpowered flight, human flight. So, we're not flying as such, even though we like to think so, but we're falling gracefully at high speed. So we're doing about, say, 3-to-1 glide ratio. So 3 meters forward to 1 meter down, doing about 200 to 250 kilometers an hour.
Wow. Okay. As fascinated as I am by all that, so you're Australian, so I'd like to get a bit of a origin story on you. So you're from Melbourne, and as I understand, were you a construction carpenter in Australia before you even started becoming a skydiver, base jumper? Is that how you started, like a job, like you were a carpenter?
I started well before that. So
okay.
I had I had an awesome family. My dad and mum were awesome, but we were pretty poor. So I loved skateboarding, and mum and dad couldn't afford me a skateboard or the cool skate clothes. So at 11 years old, I started working for my dad in the cool room industry, and then delivering pamphlets, and then pushing trolleys. And I wasn't really into school. I thought computers were just a passing fad. So I was like, right, I liked using my hands. I like creating things. And so that's when I decided to become a construction carpenter, and left school early. And then my dad said, basically, if you don't finish your apprenticeship, you have to go back to school. So I started doing that. And that was my job for many years. And that's where I got the information from one of my bosses about this skydiving stuff. And it just went from there, escalated very quickly.
Do you remember your first skydive?
Oh, yeah. Well, I do and I don't. So I remember it because I've got the video.
Okay.
I don't remember it because I blacked out as soon as I left the aircraft, which is crazy.
You did not. Are you serious?
Yeah.
That was always my fear before I did mine. I was afraid I was going to be one of those guys, and I just lost my $500 because I was asleep the whole way down. So that was always a fear. So are you saying, is this true?
Yeah, for sure. So it's called sensory overload. I had no idea about it, obviously, at the time, but that's when your brain is trying to process too much information. It just shuts down. So it's a bit like the fight or flight feeling as well. But it only happens once, and it happened on my first jump. And I never forget that point, even though I don't remember the jump itself, as such. I remember climbing out onto the strut, first of all, the door opening, you're straight into the air rushing in, and obviously it's the first time it's happened, so you don't know what's going on, and then they make you climb out of a moving aircraft, and left hand here, right hand here, left foot there, right foot there, and you're holding on to this airplane wing, and then they're right, okay, out, in, go. And I just remember going as I left the plane, and that's my brain just shut down. Then it was too much for me, too much to deal with. But that's why we have two people holding on to you at the time. And I know after 5 seconds or so, I came to, and then that was just the ultimate rush, the ultimate feeling, and I knew that my life had changed forever then at that moment, and it did.
Okay, so your first jump wasn't they call it tandem? So you weren't attached to or harnessed to an instructor. You had two one person on each side of you?
Yeah, thankfully not,
wow.
Because I wouldn't be here today if I did tandem. Yeah. So
Okay.
the process for that was it was really interesting. We were young, 20 years old, young, dumb, and full of it, and I was skating and surfing and looking for the next rush, and it's just as a young guy does. And so we literally looked at the brochure, and it said static line, 1 second of free fall. We're like, nah, that's not extreme. And then it said tandem, 25 seconds of free fall. And then it said AFF, accelerated free fall, 35 seconds of free fall. And the only reason I'm here today is because all I saw was 35 seconds of free fall, and that would make me the most extreme guy on the planet.
Wow, this is incredible. Okay. So then how did you make the move to base jumping?
Wow, it really is like, when you get mixed up in the wrong crowd.
Okay.
That's
sure.
That's
okay.
exactly what happened to me, except the wrong crowd is the best crowd.
So,
yes. We're very lucky that, you don't judge a book by its cover. I had a purple mohawk, and in normal society, people judged me a lot, and it was great because it meant I didn't have to speak to 90% of the idiots out there, and you only speak to people that are wholesome, that see past that. And basically, started jumping, skydiving as much as I could, and just saw in the back rooms, it was all cloak and dagger back then, all the base jumping, and saw in the back room these guys watching this base jumping stuff, and I had no idea what it was. And one of the legends of the sport showed me a video of them jumping off the Rialto building in Melbourne in daylight. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? There's something even cooler with even less rules than skydiving. I'm like, I'm in. So, and I only had 30 skydives or something. So, and then I watched a ton of videos behind closed doors so no one could see. And then I went one day, and it was June, I think it was either May or June 1997. And it was at night, and they asked me if I wanted to go and ground crew for some people jumping off the Westgate Bridge in Melbourne illegally. And I'm like, absolutely. So I show up and getting ready to help out wherever I can. And they just hand me a parachute and say, do you want to jump? I'm literally just handing me a parachute. I had no idea how it was packed, what was in it. And they said, do you want to jump? And I'm like, yes. So with between 30 and 40 skydives, I put on this parachute, and we went and did this jump, and it was fully illegal. And then my parachute didn't even work properly, and I smashed into the water, and then the cops came, and it was just the best. and that for me was another turning point where I'm like, oh my God, I just fell in love with just not just the sport, but the people in it. The people on the ground that day helping out some of the legends of the sport now that are really high up in official positions. And it was just, I don't know, there was just this cheekiness about the whole thing that just blew me away. And that's when I got asked around, what do I need to do this base jumping? And that's when I got the 200 skydives up and did all the training required as best we could back then, and got a mentor, and basically went from there. And that's the whole way through learning to base jump and stuff like that. I was also skydiving a lot and more, and we got into the competitive side of things. So we were starting to train a lot too. So whilst it sounded pretty radical and crazy and dangerous, we're actually very disciplined behind the scenes and did everything properly. And of course, back in those days, you're still dealing with extreme fear because there was a lot of unknowns at that point in time. So, the sport had been invented for sure, but, my mentors only had 30 or so base jumps themselves. So it was basically the blind leading the blind. But it was good because we had to think for ourselves the whole way through, and we had to deal with fear, but also be very respectful of fear and obviously of getting hurt or killed. And that's what gave us the mindset and skill set to keep going on and on up until this day, 25 years later.
That's the thing with base jumping. So not only do you manage your fear, you survive the fall, but now you have to evade captivity. So there must be a whole like rule book on how like you're looking for a clean exit. Like how do you not all places I'm sure that you've jumped are I guess legal. I guess you can, but you have to. So you must have systems in place to manage, I guess, that risk too, right? I mean, so it's crazy. You just do this massive jump, and now you're thinking, okay, now I have to not get caught somehow. Okay.
Yeah, we always joke around. You don't have to run the fastest; you just have to run faster than your mate. and most of the time that works for me. There was one time when he ran faster than me, and I ended up in a Norwegian jail. But for the most part, we jump in the cloak of darkness and. All the jumps are generally done between 1 and 5 a.m. And, didn't get a lot of sleep in those early years in Melbourne because we were jumping off chimneys and buildings and power lines and bridges. Every moment the weather was good, we were there in the dark, sneaking around. Cool.
Okay, so let me ask. So, like scuba diving, it's the scuba diving at night is so much better than diving in day. So, is it the same thing for skydiving or base jumping at night? Is it just bring an added rush?
No, not at all. I mean,
No?
it for sure, jumping at night's good, but it's only because it's illegal. When we do legal events in Malaysia or China and stuff like that, it's all the jumps are done during the day with some novelty jumps done at night. So it's cool, but jumping in the day and seeing everything is awesome as well. It's just through necessity of not getting into trouble by the coppers.
Okay. All right. And base, if I understand, that's for a bridge aerial span. Am I forgetting one?
Yep. So we missed a couple there. So it stands for building and
building.
Span,
Yes.
which is a bridge, and earth, which is a cliff. It's an acronym that was first coined, I think, in about 1978 by Carl Banish, who was one of the original legends of the sport, but unfortunately passed away soon after. And then, a lot of blood was spilt over those early years to get the sport to its humble beginnings where I started. And then obviously in the last sort of 12 to 13 years, or even 15 years, a lot of blood's also been spilled with the innovation of the wingsuit and YouTube and Facebook and people just trying to go too crazy too early. But in amongst all that carnage and chaos has been a tremendous amount of joy and a lot of incredible experiences with incredible people. So I'm truly blessed.
Of the base jumps, did you have a preference between building or antenna? Do you like them all the same?
Well, at the start, you just take what you can get in Melbourne.
Okay.
They're antennas, and the cool stuff was buildings. But we'd sneak up to the Blue Mountains in Sydney, New South Wales, and we'd go and jump all the cliffs there at an early on. And that's when I really found my love for the mountains. I mean, I was really blessed that my father was amazing, and since the age of 3, every 3 months we'd go away camping. So he taught me the ways of the mountains and the ways of the bush and how to survive and how to appreciate and treat Mother Earth as she should be treated. And I was really grateful for that, and looking back especially, because when I first got to the mountains and started jumping off the mountains, it was just an extension of myself and who I was anyway. And that blew me away. And, jumping in the Blue Mountains really set me on the journey to where I am now, which is in the Swiss Alps. And it just gave me that bug to travel the world and check out all the coolest mountains on the planet and get the added bonus of not just climbing them, but jumping off them. So super grateful for that.
And I guess jumping in the mountains prepared you for wingsuit, right? Because from what I noticed, most of your jumps are. Well, let me ask before you answer that question: is it true that when wingsuit started, it was really just you jumped off a mountain just to get away from it? But is it true that over time, to get more of a rush, now it didn't mean anything unless you were flying by really fast the side of a mountain? Is that true?
Yeah, that is very, very true. And it's funny because wingsuit skydiving and daredevil stuff has been out there since the 1930s, late 1920s. So the sports history is very colorful in the early days. But what happened was in 1997, I think it was, Patrick DeGarion started flying wingsuits and started designing them to what modern day wingsuits are today, along with Robert Pecknick soon after. But it was in 2003, and I remember it perfectly, when another living legend, Jean-Louis Albert, he got out of a helicopter and he flew his wingsuit down a mountain past 2 skiers and then flew away to safety. And we were at the World Championships in Gap, France. and they put this on the big screen in front of all the world's best skydivers. And no one had ever seen anything like it before. And it just blew everyone away. And that was the moment in time where wingsuiting changed forever. And people realized that you don't just jump off the mountains now to get away safely. You can actually turn back in and fly along the walls. And that's where proximity flying was born. So, and it truly is the greatest feeling on earth. But, with great feelings like that comes great risk and great responsibility. And so that's when, the chaos and carnage sort of really began.
And so for you as a professional skydiver and base jumper, I'm guessing wingsuit is the ultimate. Being a wingsuit pilot is the ultimate. Like there's nothing
Staying alive is the ultimate.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's what I've learned over the years. Everyone's like, oh, what's the best thing about it? It's living.
Okay.
That's number one, because you don't do this to die. If you want to die, you just go and die. That's easy fixed, But no one is doing it with a death wish. Everyone's doing it with a will to live and a life wish. But there's certain unwritten rules and laws and limits that you have to abide by. So that's really important to understand. And if you can do that, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, I may die on the very next jump, but if you can do that, then you're winning the game. So you get the absolute thrill of flying, and you get to live through it and do it again. And, I just jumped with one of my heroes the other day, and he's 70 years old now and still base jumping. So I'm only 45. So if I can do another 25 years in this sport, I'll be 70 alongside jumping with him, and I'll be very, very, very grateful.
It also looks like, not only, like you said, your first mission is, is surviving, managing risk and all that, but it looks like you have to be in great shape. Like what's the longest you've ever had to hike up a mountain just to jump off it for like 2 minutes? Like it looks like you guys go pretty, when you're working and living in Switzerland now. So can you put it in terms of hours, how long it takes you to hike up a mountain to jump off it?
Yeah. It depends on the jump itself. So there's some jumps, especially Switzerland's pretty cool for it. There's a lot of times you're about to get a cable car part the way up, and then you just hike for 2 or 3 hours. Or sometimes you can get a cable car up and only have to hike 1 or 2 minutes to jump. And if someone else is paying, a helicopter is always good as well. But
okay.
Yeah, only if someone else is paying. But yeah, look, we stay very fit. Most of our jumps, I'd say, average it out to 2 or 3 hours of hiking each time, in sometimes pretty tricky conditions, climbing up rock faces and things like this. So you have to be quite physically fit. And the way I teach my guys is, if you're physically fit, you'll be mentally fit, and if you're mentally fit, you'll be emotionally fit. And so it's not just about the hike. It's what you want to be ready to go once you're actually there. When things get real, that's when you want to be totally focused, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So it's important to work out, eat well, party less, which I wasn't good at when I was younger, but I'll get up every morning. First thing I'll do is push the coffee button, and then I'll do 20 kettlebell swings, 20 push-ups, and that'll wake me up straight away. And then I'll just do a quick workout, even if it's only 60 push-ups, 60 kettlebell swings. Every other day I'll do a half-hour, 40-minute workout, and then I'll start hiking or bike riding or something like that as well. And especially the older I get, the more important it is to be physically fit. I never expected to live this long, and my body is definitely paying the price for that now. So it's only now I'm really looking at health and fitness in a more of a wow, I might live through this sort of scenario. So I'm the fittest I've ever been right now. And it's really important to maintain a good level of skill set and mindset, in my opinion.
Now, I have a question for you. I'm a typical beginner, skydiving. So, but first time skydiving, as cool as it was, I was kind of alarmed at how fast you forget the feeling that you had during free fall. Like it's almost like you couldn't recreate it in your mind. They happen so fast. So I started to think, well, wait a minute, do I have to jump every week just to get this feeling back? So please tell me, in wingsuit, that when you're a wingsuit pilot, does it last longer? That high, I guess the words I'm looking for.
It's like all good things in life.
Okay.
It doesn't last long enough. And you want more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it? So do you? Okay. So it actually. So I guess if you do enough jumps, you kind of do have to keep doing more, right? To
Uh,
capture that
Look,
feeling.
it evolves. It depends where you are in your life too. I mean, I know when I was younger, it completely engulfed me, and took over my entire life because there really is no other feeling like falling through the sky unassisted. I mean, just
No, there can't
you,
be.
yeah, you can't describe it. I do a lot of extreme sports. I've done a lot of cool stuff, and just falling through the sky, whether it's a wingsuit or not, is just so beautiful. And for sure, when I was younger, for a while there, you're talking adrenaline rush and crazy stuff and all that. But as I get older, it's just pure calm, and you just get this. Especially when I'm wingsuiting, even if when I'm flying proximity and stuff like that, you're so in tune with yourself and with your surroundings and with your flow state, which comes over a lot of years of training, that you're just in this beautiful calm moment where everything actually slows down. It's a bit Matrix style, and it's the most calm I am in my life is when I'm doing 250 k's an hour, a couple of meters off the rocks, because everything matters right now, and it's if you make one error in judgment, that could be it. And so yeah, you learn this flow state, and it's just so beautiful. And with base jumping, it's not just about, obviously that flight's incredible, but it's the moments hiking up to the mountain with your friends, and it's the serenity of the area that you're hiking in or climbing in, and the wildlife and all that stuff. So it's a whole package. And it's also about minimizing the risk and going through that process as well. So all the different building blocks of risk, and just getting through that, and stepping up to the edge and actually doing it. It goes against millions of years of evolution.
Yeah.
We're not meant to do that. So once you learn to harness that, and if you can stay smart all the way through that process and live and continue to live, then it's extremely rewarding, not just for the jump itself, but for life in general. You can really achieve anything you set your mind to. And again, climbing up, it's not just walk out the door and you're on a cliff doing cool stuff. It's a process. And so I think it's also, as well as my father teaching me that, to work hard to get what you want. If you really want anything in life, you've got to go for it. And the wingsuiting, what people don't understand is just if you push it hard and do everything correctly, it still takes you 5 years to become a wingsuit proximity flyer at best, if you're smart. Other people can rush through all that process too, but they'll generally get hurt or killed or get bored. So, but if you do the process right, it still takes a very long time. And that's why it's such a niche sport still. You can't just go out and buy a wingsuit and jump off a cliff straight away, if you want to do it safely. Whereas kids can just pick up a skateboard and start to learn to skate. So that's why it's still a fringe sport, and that's why it's not hit the mainstream as yet.
On your YouTube channel, which I think you're around 38.5 million views, I think, in climbing. you have a video. There's one in particular I'm curious about, because it looks like you jump out of a helicopter and it looks like you're landing on a spit of an island. So now, were you in the tropic? Where were you? Or if you don't want to say, it's okay, because I have a question. Were you on an excursion and somehow you convinced the
Can't say,
pilot?
officer. No more questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you convince the pilot to jump out? Or if you don't want to answer that's okay.
That's all right. No, my friend convinced the pilot. It was my friend's boss.
Okay.
And it's funny because I wanted to jump onto this cave for like 14 years, and I was up visiting a mate up in Port Douglas, and they're like, "Hey, let's go out." And we bought a kilo of oysters and prawns, and me and my wife then and my mate and this boss man, they flew us around the rainforest for a bit, and flew us out on this K and just let me jump out and see you later. And yeah, no boat, big boys rules, don't fuck up. Oops, excuse my French. I did good. I did what I get about 10 minutes in.
Perfect.
I did my best.
And I'm calling from Montreal, so you can say, excuse my French. It's okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
Perfect timing.
That's classic. So, so I jumped out, we landed there. We went for a snorkel, had some seafood, and then flew back. And it was amazing.
To get better than that. So this wasn't Australia.
True.
It wasn't Australia.
It was in Australia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it looked like a total James Bond moment because the pilot perfectly timed. I think he landed just seconds behind you, like the harbor police were about to catch you or something. I mean, it was such a beautiful video. I was just curious the behind the scenes, how you did that,
We just went for it. And I mean, he's a very good pilot. We're miles away from land, like really in the middle of the ocean. And it's quite a big place to land when you're close to the ground, but when you get up high, you're like, oh, it's pretty small. but again, I had a ton of experience, and I'd even lived in North Queensland for a while, and I knew what was going on. With the winds were good, everything was good. So had it not been good, we just simply I wouldn't have jumped. So it all worked out really well.
So you got permission before. You didn't just show up with your parachute, and the pilot was like, "What's going on, mate?" So you got permission beforehand, right? Okay, I guess.
Well, with the pilot, me and the pilot went through it. Yeah. Okay. The helicopter was stolen, though. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Well, while we're still on your YouTube channel, I have another question because you posted a video on November 30th. I think it's one of your last jumps of the season because you said the snow was coming. On Lauterbrunnen, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
How did you film that? Who filmed that? Because I didn't see any. You weren't jumping with a selfie stick. Were you jumping with a drone? Like, how was that filmed? Because the camera's right on you.
It's funny. I get a lot of questions on my social media channels for that. So I love camera work, and skydiving and base jumping really got me into the love of videography and photography. But over time, you're like, it's the same old. And then the GoPros come out, which is rad. So it made it easier to put cameras on all weird angles and stuff. Then I got pretty over that as well. And then this year, the Insta360 have this X2 that came out, and it was just amazing, So I finally got one, even though I wasn't into it. And basically, it's a camera that's a 360 camera that you just stick on I've got like a stick mount, like almost a selfie stick, but it's on your head. It's about 10 inches.
But it doesn't show in the video, though.
It's amazing because the way the software is, it stitches it out. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man.
So
good invention, man. Okay.
It's amazing. And it really is good to just see how you're flying. That's mainly why I got it. It's just to see what my arms do. I have lazy hands sometimes with this big suit that we fly called a Sequoia, and it just makes it. I say, I need to move my hands, or I could move my legs a bit more wider, or things like that. So I look at that, and if there's anything wrong with my parachute, or there really is something to document, so you can learn more as well as see the beautiful scenery and what we get up to as well. So that got me back into camera work again this year. So.
Okay, cool. I was racking my brain. I thought you had a drone somehow, programmed a drone to stay ahead of you. I'm like, no. Yeah. And I said, somebody else can't be filming him because that's too close. I'm like, how did he do this? Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm really lucky. I have two of my close friends are two of the best cameramen in the world, and I love to fly and they love to film. So there's quite a few jumps this year that we did from Scott Patterson and Sam Hardy. That shout out to those boys because they love filming at high speeds. Close during proximity flying, and it's like they got bigger balls than me, that's for sure.
All right, let's get into your school. What year did you start to what year did you open your school, learn to base jump?
So it's a long time in the making because I started teaching in Norway in 2003 actually, and already then, whilst I don't have a teaching background, I just knew the way things worked, and I made a few changes to their school. And then over the years, I just off and on would help mates and teach a few people here and there. But and this is a true story. But I love Mexican food, and so I decided to start running courses, just black courses in the USA, just so I could go and eat some Mexican food. And
where in the USA?
In Twin Falls, Idaho, at the Prime Bridge.
There's good Mexican food in Twin Falls, Idaho?
There is if you're from Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
So I just love burritos and stuff. And anyway, I was in Twin Falls back in 2002. I lived in the US for a while. And so I really enjoyed the place. So I ran a few courses over there, and eventually they weren't really running at a profit. They were running at a loss. So once the novelty of flying all that way and to have a few burritos and stuff worn off, then I realized that, okay, we need to do this as a bit more of at least break even, And so I was working on oil rigs, and then I finished that up, and I moved to Switzerland, and I was working in a bar at that point. And that's when I started doing the initial stages of what it went to today. So, and the way it really came about was that one of my best friends at the time, her husband died in a triple fatality wingsuiting out of a helicopter. And so she was the brains behind their money, but he was the one that actually went out and earned it, so physically. And so when he died, she had no income. And so one of the reasons I started the school was to help her out and get her a few bucks. And then it just, we've parted ways since then. And that just, the school just evolved very quickly, mostly because I try and provide a generally good product. And because I lived so long and traveled so much, I was very well known by people and very experienced. And so all these little things combined just grew from a hobby to a full-blown business. And it was within 2 years, we called it a name. It wasn't Dukes' base course anymore. It was called Learn to Base Jump. And it just evolved from there, where I had to get another instructor, which is Sam Hardy. He's one of my best mates, and he's an incredible jumper, an incredible human being. And we've both just evolved the school from there to what it is today. And I think my dad and my school principal taught me, just be the best you can be. So if you're going to do something, try and do it as best as possible. And so we put all our energy into making it what it is today. And it's gone from a hobby to a full-blown business. And it's a bit like, be careful what you wish for, So everything was going really well until obviously COVID hit, and then a lot of people couldn't travel. So we're just rebuilding from that. We had the people, they just couldn't get to us. So 2022, we have over 75 people that are going to learn to jump with us. And there's at least another 20 something on the waiting list. So it's going to be a crazy year next year. So in preparation for it, I'm going to go to Brazil and just go and cruise on the beach and do a few base jumps there for a change.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. Brazil. Yeah. That's going to be a nice trip. Beautiful.
Yeah.
There.
If I come back, I don't know if I'll come back by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Well, be careful. The women. Yeah. Very beautiful women over there. So yeah, that's, you might not come back, Chris. Okay.
Sensational. Keep talking.
All right. Where was I? Okay. Oh yeah. Could I talk about your book for a sec?
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
Mate, yeah.
I see you published that in 2016.
No, it must have been.
No. Oh, earlier.
20, maybe.
Oh, okay.
2012. It was finished. I finished writing it in 2000 and maybe 2007 or 8, and it took 5 years to get it published. I mean, I like to challenge myself, and so my whole challenge was just for myself. I'm terrible at English, and I still don't consider myself a writer, but I'm like, you know what? I want to write a book. And so I finished writing it, and it was just a pile of paper. That was it. And as far as I was concerned, that was finished and done. And my mate, who had some cash, he was around for dinner one night when he was traveling from South Africa, and he's like, I don't know how we got onto it, but we're drunk talking shit. And he's like, let's check this out. So I said, I handed him the pile of paper. I said, there's my book. There you go. And he's like, bro, you could do something with this. I'm like, oh, no, whatever. And he's like, no, really? And it's like, I can't even afford it. I'm living on floors and eating leftover food at that point. And he had a couple of businesses and had a bit of cash, and Jeremy Sampson's his name, and he made it happen. So that literally from writing it to getting it published or self-published was 5 years, and that was about 12 years ago. So yeah, it's funny how I'm not a writer, and some of the stuff that's in there, you look now and I shake my own head. I'm like, wow, I've definitely evolved.
Are you saying you wrote it by hand? Is that what you're saying? Like
yeah, I wrote it. Well, I used a computer, but I'm terrible at that stuff. But I wrote it like I'd had 3 beers at a pub and I was telling a story. We're half drunk, that's how my premise of writing it was. So that's how it comes across. People that know who I am and how I speak and how I act, it's exactly the same in the book. It's not professional at all. It's just who I am and how I write. So that's how it came about. But definitely a few stories I may not have needed to put in there, but they're in there now. And okay. I won't be running for president anytime soon.
Oh no, come on! Now you would win in a landslide. Can you imagine your inauguration? Just skydiving into the Capitol.
It would be epic.
I know. Onto a beach or something too.
Yeah, it'd be the best 6 months America's ever had.
That's right. All right, let's get the beer question out of the way. Your favorite Australian beer?
Well, I had a bit of a problem with the old beer, so I don't even drink anymore.
No, when you did you like VB? Because that was my favorite when I was there.
I liked free beer. That was my favorite. Yeah.
Oh, good answer.
Free beer is the beer for me.
Okay.
I would drink anything I could get my hands on to keep that party going. That's one of the downsides of skydiving and base jumping is you get that such an intense feeling that you want to keep that party going, and life got a bit too good there for a while. So now I'm have to be sober because I'm full throttle or nothing. So I've decided I'll have to go nothing if I'm going to survive this mess.
Okay.
So, but VB is a good beer. A lot of people will say that's not true, but I like the old VB.
Oh, me too. Okay, I still miss it to this day. But once a year, I can get a can sent to me, because you can't get it in Canada anywhere. So, but one of my friends manages to send me a can every year. That's the only can of VB in all of Canada.
Awesome.
You are also a motivational speaker, correct?
Yes, I do the odd talk here and there, sometimes about my life and sometimes about risk management. It's a unique niche subject that I'll be able to create. So not too many people have lived 25 years in the sport and able to talk about it with risk management sort of perspective. So that's been pretty cool. And it's really good to change people's minds of how most people think we've just got this crazy death wish, to actually show them the building blocks of risk and how we can mitigate it. So that's been pretty cool. And it's really nice to help other people. That's been, as I've evolved and grown and matured, and that's where I get my true joy now, is from helping others learn and be safe. And so that's been really cool. So I'd like to do more of it actually, but it's always tricky because I don't fit into the normal market for speaking bureaus and stuff. So that's always a bit tough, but that's okay.
On this podcast, my listeners and myself, we love like funny travel stories or any anecdotes. So is there any, or it could be on one of your jumps, like, is there a story that you tell commonly, like this is a crazy story? I mean, do you have anything like that? Like,
yeah, you don't want to hear those stories.
No. Okay, yeah, sorry, I should have said clean and appropriate. Okay, so that just takes care of. I know I'm hamstringing you a little bit here, but
there's tons of stories. There's tons of stories. I mean, it's been a crazy life. I mean, just the travel stories and what it took to get to the destination. I mean, that's the coolest part. I mean, me and my best mate, Wild Man, we thought one time in Norway, we heard the food was super expensive over there. So, it was our first time traveling through Europe. So we decided to buy about 40 tins of ravioli so that we could eat cheap. We didn't even think about how much that would weigh. So we get to the check-in in France, and I'll never forget. I'll leave some of the parts of this story out, but we get there and they're like, that's going to be $400 excess luggage. We're like, we didn't have that money. We had no money at all. And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, you're 40 kilos overweight or something. So we had tins of ravioli rolling around the whole airport, trying to put them into our pockets and our hand luggage and everything. And it was, there's a lot less rules 25 or 20 odd years ago in airports. And I mean, I still remember to this day how funny that was to get on the plane. And they was just the check-in people were just amused by the whole thing, that they didn't end up charging us anything, which was cool. But I mean, I got 1,000 of those style stories.
Okay. Well, that one's pretty good. I never heard that.
The jump is just one tiny part of the adventure, that's for sure.
Okay, yeah, it's the journey getting there, right?
Yeah, massive, and that's the best parts. That's where all the real memories, and I've forgotten quite a few of them too. But the real adventure lies in the getting to the places that you get to experience and jump from.
I've seen some videos. Well, they're obviously fake. Like maybe a couple years ago, I saw some wingsuit videos where I guess someone was trying to, maybe you can dispel the myth or these. People seem to think that if wingsuit, if you come to, I guess, a perfect incline, like, is it possible to, I guess, fly down? I'm trying to ask this question. It's more as, can you stop without pulling the ripcord? If you're gliding down an incline, will you say it's a very soft, because there's people that claim that you could actually survive and land safely if do you know where I'm going with this question? It's kind of hard to describe.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about,
and you can definitely, everyone can do it once.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. That's what I thought. Okay.
No, look, it's quite a few people have survived, Hayden, unintentionally, obviously. There was a person just a month ago in America that survived not opening her parachute at all because of the incline. That person was filming someone else and it made a mistake. and just didn't even have an opportunity to pull and just had to land. And that person they lost, I think, a little part of their nose and maybe a few cuts and bruises, but actually basically walked away. And I'm thinking at least 4 people have done the same that I know of, maybe 5 actually. So it is doable, but not one of them has been on purpose. Okay. The only one that was ever on purpose was by the legend himself, Gary Connery, who landed in, I think, 21,000 cardboard boxes on purpose. And the coolest part about that was there was another jumper that's all famous and stuff talking smack about the whole thing and how cool it was going to be that he was going to do all this rad stuff. And then this guy, Gary, with hardly any wingsuit experience, and back then especially, he's a terrible wingsuit pilot, you know, he'll tell you that. And he just came in and landed on the cardboard boxes and just, you know, walked away unscathed. And he's a legendary guy, and he's such a legendary act that he did. And, you know, even the interview afterward, they're like, wow, so what's next for you? And he's like, well, I've got to pack up those boxes, you know. And so he's the only one that's landed for real on purpose. It's 100% doable, but it's that last moment, you know, that foot off the ground where the uncertainty is and the consequences are high. So that's why it hasn't been done. If there's no consequences, everyone would do it. I mean, I'm sure I could do it with the right suit and the right terrain, the right snow, but do I want to take that risk? Absolutely not. It's not worth dying for.
Well said. Well said. Is it like, if you want to learn to become, I know you said it takes about 5 years. So does it get expensive? Like, how much is a wingsuit, for instance? Like,
it does. It's not just that, like anything you want to do and be passionate about is going to be expensive. All the fun things are, you know, you want to race cars, you got to pay. You want to race motorbikes, you got to pay. You want to ski, you know, you got to pay for all this stuff. And skydiving and base jumping is no different. You got to buy a parachute. And if you're smart, you'll buy a good parachute, you know, and that's what I tell people. Don't skimp on the gear because it's your life-saving device. So you got to buy your parachutes and you got to buy your wingsuits. Then you got to travel to the drop zones and you got to pay for your skydives. And you got to, at the whole time you're doing that, you're not working. So it does cost a lot. And base jumping as well. People think, oh, base jumping is so much cheaper. You don't have to pay for the aircraft, but you still have to travel to these remote locations and you still got to pay for accommodation or camping. And again, it comes to time off work. So if you're really following your dream and your passion, you know, you're basically quitting your job and going for it. So on the other end of that, though, you will do what it takes to get to where you need to go if your heart truly desires this. So that's what people say, like, I can't believe how lucky you are. It's like not about luck. It's about passion combined with drive and truly chasing your heart. And I think I'm super grateful. Myself and my little sister, she's a professional world-class circus performer. So imagine us going into school, our school counselor, and be like, hey, this is what I want to do for a living. And they're gonna call my parents and my sister's parents and be like, what the hell, you know? But we both did it with just passion and just heart and just drive. And we both have amazing careers in our passions. So it's doable if you truly want it and you're willing to put in the hard yards. And I'm talking like living in your car, you know, eating pasta, you know, literally waiting for other people to finish their meals and eat their meals and do whatever it takes to make your dreams come true. And even earlier this year, even with my broken leg, I was digging holes to help a mate because I needed some cash. And you do what it takes. And then next minute, you know, you get a phone call and you get to do a TV shoot or something and you're a rock star for a couple of minutes and then you're back pouring beers at your family's bar, you know, your mother-in-law's bar, or, you know, it's important just to do whatever it takes to get to where you need to go. And again, that's part of the adventure. And I think that's also what keeps you grounded and humbled along the way as well. Nothing is for free. You got to work your ass off for anything you truly desire.
True enough, sir. That is, definitely good advice and words.
Normally, police call me sir. No, I'm kidding.
Oh man, this has been so great, Chris. Like, I really want to thank you for sharing your time and your story with us. This has been awesome, man. Because I really admire what you do, and you know, trade places with you in a second, believe it or not, which most people probably would when they meet you.
Yes and no. I mean, you know, don't let Instagram fool you. It's
Okay.
like it's a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and life is never as simple, and there's a lot of death, a lot of carnage, and a lot of a lot of hurdles along the way to get to this point, but overall, I wouldn't change it for quids either. You know, you got to have the good with the bad and the bad with the good to keep life rolling. And I've learned recently in the last 18 months, especially through COVID and a lot of other things happened to me personally, that Alan Watts said, you know, there's no point sustaining bliss. And for every high tide, there's a low tide, and you've just got to roll with the vibrations of the universe, all the good and the bad, because it's all part of just being. So what I've learned through getting older and being alive in this sport for 25 years is that just the miracle of breath is actually the most important thing. And everything else around that's just an added bonus. And I think with our sports, you know, you do see life's vanish before your eyes in a heartbeat. So just from a very early age, you've got to appreciate just truly living and trying to make the best of this life that we've been given. And I think that for me is the key from here on out, is just be fit, be healthy, and just take every day as it comes and enjoy the hell out of it.
Well, yeah. And to build on what you said, you know, one of my favorite quotes is, you know, when your life flashes before your eyes, make sure you have something to watch. And you, sir, sorry, my friend, have a lot to watch.
Always make sure you got clothes on as well.
That's right. Exactly.
When life flashes before your eyes, make sure you know where you put your clothes.
Yeah. And yeah, clean underwear, no holes in them. That's right. You're right. Oh man, am I forgetting to ask you anything? Like I don't want to let you go in case there's something I forgot to ask you or you wanted to say. Did we cover it, or is there something you want to?
No, but I mean, any questions you got? I'm a pretty open book. You know, I don't hide anything. I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. I've been super blessed, and the good and the bad. You know, I wouldn't wish some of the things that have happened to me and that I've witnessed upon anyone, but it's also given me an interesting perspective on life, death, and living and stuff like that. So, I mean, the advice to anyone is just to do whatever it takes to put a smile on your face. And if that means hitting a golf ball, go for it. If it means dressing up in a clown suit, go for it. If it means being an accountant, go for it. But just at the end of the day, do what makes you happy. And if you can stare in the mirror and you're not happy with something in your life, then you are the only person that can change it. And change it now. Don't change it tomorrow. Change it now, because life is just a fleeting moment when it all comes down to it. So that's my advice. But if I had to talk to my younger self, I wouldn't bother, because he wouldn't listen. So, so just go for it. Enjoy. Don't hurt other people. Don't vandalize this planet. Try and be as beautiful as you can to this planet, and just be kind.
Well said. Well put. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Chris Dukes McDougall. Don't worry, I will put all the links into his episode description, because you must check out his and subscribe to his YouTube channel and his Instagram and Facebook, because you'll just see the most amazing videos you've ever seen in your life. Dukes, thanks again, man, from the bottom of my heart for coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
No worries, brother. A pleasure.
Now, don't hang up right away. I still want to thank you, but we'll see you all next week, everyone. Bye. Say bye, Chris.
Ciao. See you.